Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to the Mad Max Minute Podcast, the daily podcast where we break down Mad Max 1 minute at a time. I'm Rick.
And I'm Julia.
And today we're talking about minute 20, which begins with Fifi telling Max about the Knight Rider's friends, and it ends with Toe Cutter's gang rolling into town. Happy Friday, Julia.
Happy Friday.
This is the end of week 4. Can you believe we've already done like a month of these?
Wow.
How time flies.
Yes.
So, we start off this minute with Max responding to Fifi's statement from last minute ago. He was talking about, hey, remember that code 3 you ran down? And Max is like, oh, you mean the Knight Rider? And he's like, yeah, the Knight Rider. Well, we've got a problem. And Max is like, well, what kind of problem are we talking about? And Fifi says his friends. Word out, they're out to get you. This little exchange they have, Max is pretty cavalier about having a gang of bikers with a grudge against him.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to mind at all.
Yeah, and it's not his cavalier attitude that bothers me. What bothers me is, how do the bikers know that it was Max, specifically, that took out the Knight Rider, that ran him down and made him crash? Because we were listening to the news on the TV, and they didn't specifically mention Max at all.
No, just the main force patrol.
Yeah, I feel like if the news were specifically mentioning Max, and I know that we got a thing from Jesse saying, oh, you made the news again. It's like, yeah, the main force patrol got the news again. And yeah, he's the best rider they have, but they didn't specifically mention him. So,
well,
why?
I think that we can use the previous scene of the crash as an example that the Knight Rider crash probably would have had a similar turnout for tow truck drivers and ambulances and other cops showing up. So I think a lot of people knew that it was Max.
So probably word of mouth is what you're saying?
I think it was word of mouth. And yeah. I think it would have happened pretty quick, which a few days ago, so it did.
Because it would make more sense if the gang was gunning for all MFP officers.
It would make sense, because, I mean, quite a few of them took part in the chase.
Yeah.
But Max was the one indirectly responsible for his death. So I think they're just being really specific. Mm-hmm. So they must have had very specific information.
Yeah, these scoot jockeys, nomad trash.
Yeah, so we've heard the term scoot jockey before, and we've discussed it before. The term nomad trash, I found that to be a little demeaning.
Well, I think it's supposed to be.
I think it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But we've mentioned before that it looks like, and we'll see in upcoming minutes, that it looks like that they live on a beach. And we'll obviously talk about that more when we actually get to that scene, but this kind of leads you in that direction as well, that they don't have a real base of operations.
Yeah, I don't think they
necessarily
leave anywhere. I don't think they live anywhere.
Yeah. It also speaks to what society as a whole thinks of them, which, earned or not, does provoke some sympathy in me that they are thought of as trash because they're nomadic.
Well, I think that's been true through all history.
I know. I just now I thought of gypsies and what society thinks of them historically and how they are looked down upon. And I don't think gypsies like nowadays are nomadic anymore, are they?
Are they called? I'm trying to think I feel like gypsy's a nickname.
It might be.
I think.
But I guess from the movies.
Yeah.
Gypsies from the movies are nomadic and people look down on them very, very much. But I also get the sense throughout the movie, starting in this minute and throughout the movie, that they've earned this disdain from society. Mm-hmm. They behave in some pretty awful ways. So
yeah, they seem very feral,
yes,
so to speak.
I think that's a good word for it. So I don't like the nickname. It makes me feel bad for them. But when I really think about it, they probably deserve it.
Right.
So I don't know.
So
I would never use it.
Yeah. So Max, like we said, very cavalier. He says, I'll add it to my threat collection. Mm-hmm. And then Fifi says, good boy, Max, you're a good boy. And he like does this thing where he like grabs his face and like bats him around. And Max has to almost like fight him off a little bit.
Okay, so I made comments in the previous episode and in my notes about Fifi's fatherly behaviors, but something about that description didn't quite sit right with me with this particular scene. This particular scene, he's more like a big brother.
Yeah.
Like messing with his little brother.
Yeah.
He's proud of him. Like he delivered him bad news and his little brother took it really well, but he's still messing with him. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think this particular interaction was more brotherly than fatherly.
It was pretty goofy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, after Max has to bat Fifi away, we fade to black, and we fade up on a quiet, just like a quiet main street. Mm-hmm. So, this street is the town of Clunes in northwestern Victoria. This shot specifically is Fraser Street. Fraser. Fraser. I actually misspelled it as Fraser a couple of times, and I had to go back and fix myself. But given a street name, I was able to jump on Google Maps, and unfortunately for me, all of the images on Google Maps, the street view specifically, they're all from 2010. So they're like several years out of date.
Yeah.
And so all of my reference material that, like, I just have to go on it because it's the only type of material that I have. So I'm going to be making all of these statements about Fraser Street and the town of Clunes. It's all several years out of date because Google hasn't driven their street view through there in a while. Mm-hmm. But it was kind of nice as far as trying to figure out where everything is, that the street in 1976 when they were filming looks very similar to the street in 2010 when the Google camera drove through. In fact, not only was I able to figure out like where everything is, but like I have the names of cross streets and whatnot. I'll be able to get into it pretty well. Just, take what I say about the specific look of buildings with a bit of a grain of salt, because
Right, because it's been 7 years.
Exactly.
A lot changes in 7 years.
So, but we get the shot of the nice quiet street, and then we get a side shot of a red Chevy Impala parked up against a building, and they've got the radio going on, and there's a young couple sitting inside. But before we start talking about them, I did a little bit of reading about this car. It is a 1959 Chevy Impala. The website that I was reading about it on, they surmised that the Chevy probably wasn't in terribly good condition to begin with, based on a couple of clues that they see, or that they saw over the course of watching the video. But the paint job is definitely new to this car. The big flames and the bright red color. Another distinct feature of it are the pipes coming out of the hood. Those are just bolted on. They serve no more purpose than aesthetics.
Yeah, just to make it look customized.
Yeah. I think it makes it look bad, but that's just me. They look really dumb.
I have absolutely no opinion on the aesthetics of the car, except that it makes me think of down the road in the other movies, especially in Fury Road, where the aesthetics of the cars have gotten quite elaborate. Mm-hmm. And quite like everybody customizes their own car and does crazy things with them. I mean, I think it's Toe Cutter's car that's just one car on top of another car. And so crazy, crazy things. And of course, lots of flames and things like that. So that's what this car made me think of, was the aesthetic going down the road.
Made you think forward to what is eventually going to happen with all of these vehicles.
Uh-huh.
So the Chevy is parked next to a building, and that building is very close to the intersection of Fraser Street and Clunes Campbelltown Road, which is kind of the other major road. And right at that intersection, which we can kind of see a little bit of off to the left side of the shot when we're looking at the Impala, and we can kind of see it in other wider shots, there's a marble statue sitting on the side of the road, and it is the Clunes War Memorial. It's a white marble statue of a World War I soldier meant to commemorate those who served in the various conflicts in which Australia has been involved. It was dedicated on April 25th, 1925, and it has a couple of inscriptions on it. The front reads, "Lest we forget, erected in honor of all who enlisted from this town and district for the Great War 1914-18, also in memory of the fallen. Pass not this stone in sorrow, but with pride, and may you live as nobly as they died. We live in deeds, not years." And then on the back inscription, it says, "This plaque honors our men and women who served in the wars of 1914 through 1918, 1939 through 1945, and in Borneo, Malaya, Korea, and Vietnam campaigns. Only those who deserve freedom who are prepared to defend it." So that's there.
Yeah. I imagine they purposely excluded that statue from shooting.
They really did obscure it.
Yeah, because it really does not fit the scene. We're being introduced to this scene that is all about Toe Cutter's gang, and of course the couple in the red flaming car play a big role. None of this is good. That's about to happen. None of it is good.
There's a lot of menace building.
Yes. So, to show something even like in the corner that, honors the ideals of a nation just doesn't fit. Mm-hmm. So let's just not put it in there at all. Yeah.
So we go from outside the car to inside the car, where there are a couple of young people asleep. And before we cut away from them, we start hearing this droning sound that kind of starts getting louder. And in the next cut, we get to see what that is. But before we go to the motorcycles rolling into town, the young man, his character has a name. It's Lair, Lair, kind of like a dungeon lair.
Okay.
So his name is Lair. I don't think it's ever mentioned in the movie, but it's credited. He has a name.
Okay.
He's played by Hunter Gibb, and the young woman, who does not get a name, she is just Girl in Chevy.
Wow.
She's played by Kim Sullivan.
Okay.
So Hunter Gibb actually has 4 things to his name. He has 4 roles that he played. First and foremost, he's known for Mad Max. He's also known for another movie called Bellbird, where he played a character named Rob. He was on Prisoner Cell Block H, played a policeman. And then he was on another show called Division 4, where he played like 3 different characters. He would come back and do different characters for different episodes. He worked mainly on television between 1967 and 1982. Mad Max was his only film role. But he was also in an episode of Skyways, which was Joanne Samuel's show. Kim Sullivan, on the other hand, Mad Max is her only entry. So she only did 1 movie.
Okay.
I don't know if she ever did stage productions or anything like that IMDb doesn't, record, but she never went back on a television show or a movie or anything like that.
Okay.
Which, given what her character goes through, can see why she would be turned off from movies.
Mm-hmm. Real quick about the couple in the car. I think that she was meant to be naked, because before the biker gang starts the hum and they wake up, he's leaning against her and you cannot see. She's wearing like a black bandeau type thing. You can't see it at all. From that perspective, she looks buck naked. Mm-hmm. That bandeau is the exact sort of thing that a woman would wear who is supposed to appear naked, but is not.
I think they're both meant to be
quite undressed.
That's a good way to put it.
Do you think that they're sleeping in the car because they live in the car, or because they fell asleep after?
I think it's a little column A, little column B.
Yeah.
That they live out of that car, but they also do other things in that car.
Right.
And at least they had the decency to put a blanket over one of the windows.
Yeah.
Of course, they might have put the blanket over the window to keep the, giant bugs from getting in.
Right.
Because there are giant bugs in Australia that will eat your face. So, like we mentioned, there's this big droning sound, this big rumble that's coming in. And as we cut back out onto the street, these motorcycles begin rolling into town. So there are a lot more motorcycles than there are actors in the gang. There are recognizable faces that have names in the credits, but there's more of them.
Right.
So those extras are actually just regular motorcycle gang members. There's a couple of blurbs that I pulled off of a website, madmaxmovies.com, where they actually talk a bit about the bikers. And so the website says, most people probably know the bikers as the actors who played them in the film. These are the guys whose faces you see whenever there is a close-up and the names you see in the credits. They fit the part well. and are all very believable in their roles, and many of them even do some writing in the film. Sometimes the actors even get to perform a bit of the mindless destruction. Case in point, the Impala, that they're going to wreck in a few minutes. For the bigger riding sequences, and especially for the stunts, the actors were replaced by a mixture of stuntmen and bikers from the local Melbourne clubs. The primary club used for most of the film was the Vigilantes. Now, these guys actually have a website, vigilantes.com.au. I tried to click on it, but it wouldn't actually load the website, something about a DNS failure or something like that. I think the website probably just fell into disrepair and shut down. Anyway, going back to the blurb. Riders from the Vigilantes performed a lot of the precision stunt work, such as burnouts, donuts, monos, and even a few falls. The donut and mono by the Toe Cutters gang in Clunes was a Vigilantes rider. So in the next couple of minutes, once they actually start messing with the town...
Right. I remember that, yeah.
We're going to see a lot of the work of these actual motorcycle gang members that were brought into the film to add extra bulk to Toe Cutters gang. Because a gang of only 7 to 10 guys isn't that impressive. But when you roll in and you've got 24 motorcycles...
Yeah, it's like 3 times that many.
Yeah. Because when they got motorcycles from Kawasaki, they were only given like 10 of them.
Yeah.
And they needed
one
a
of
lot
those
more.
was for Goose. One of them was a spare that only leaves 8 bikes for the gang itself. Which, you're right, especially in this opening scene where they're all riding into town. 8 bikes is not a lot. As opposed to like, I don't know, I didn't count them, maybe 30.
That sounds about right. Either 24, somewhere between 24 and 30.
Yeah.
We'll be able to see pretty well once they all get lined up.
Yes.
So, as they're riding into town, the young couple start to stir. The young man specifically, like, moves out of the car, and the young woman kind of leans forward to see what's going on. And we actually cut inside one of the buildings to a guy who we're going to get introduced to as the station master. Mm-hmm. He's wearing like a hat with a bug net, and he's holding a cane and whatnot. But he hears the sound and he starts to get up to go see what's going on.
Yeah, the way that he does that and the look on his face, he knows they're trouble already. Doesn't seem to be the case very much with the couple in the car, and then there's a couple kind of walking out of the building.
Yeah.
Who seem more curious than anything else. The station master, he seems more concerned when he perks up hearing the bikers come in.
So the station master, he is played by an actor named Reg Evans. He actually died in 2009. He was 80 years old. But his top 4 on IMDb, first and foremost, Mad Max, where he played the station master. Number 2, he was actually in the movie Gallipoli.
Okay.
Which we mentioned in an earlier minute, the World War I movie. He was one of the athletics officials in that movie. Because I think it's been a long time since I've seen Gallipoli, but I remember there being a portion of that movie where you get introduced to the characters and their runners. And so before they join up in the army, they're all about running. And so I think he played one of the athletics officials there. The third movie he's best known for is Japanese Story, which came out in 2003. His character was named Bloke in Rowboat.
Okay.
And then the number 4 movie he's best known for is The Plains of Heaven in 1982, where he played a character named Cunningham. So, aside from those things, Evans was in 7 episodes of Homicide. But he was in 12 episodes of Prisoner Cell Block H.
Oh my goodness.
Because everybody was in one of those 2 shows.
Yeah.
The show that really stood out to me, out of his filmography, they made an Australian version of Are You Being Served? Have you ever seen that show?
I think I have.
Are You Being Served is one of those shows from the BBC that PBS took and would show.
Yes.
As part of their nightly
the retail,
lineup.
The department store one?
That's exactly the one.
Yeah.
They made an Australian version, very much how, the United States made their version of The Office. Mm-hmm. Australia made their version of Are You Being Served? And in that show, he played kind of the handyman character named Mr. Cocker. And I watched a couple of scenes from it, and it's like Are You Being Served, but Australian.
Okay.
Yeah, they did a pretty good job of recreating the set even. It's kind of eerie how similar it looks. But so as the station master stirs, we cut outside to those people you were mentioning. The woman, her character's name is Gumchewer. She's played by Carrie Miller. And the man behind her, his name is Grinner. And he's played by John Farndale. Carrie Miller has only one credit on IMDb to her name. She only did Mad Max and she did nothing else. Very much like Kim Sullivan. John Farndale, on the other hand, has 5 credits, which means that his top 4 is literally 80% of everything he ever did. And nothing he did is very remarkable. At least not enough for me to mention. Okay,
it just occurred to me that Gumchewer, that's the only time she's in the movie, right? That brief scene where we see her standing in the road chewing gum.
She's in this whole sequence. The whole time that they're in town,
she's just kind of there.
One of the locals that they end up harassing.
Okay, but then Girl in Car gets like a whole part of the storyline centered around her, and she doesn't get a name.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that Gumchewer and Grinner get named after their like only characteristic. Mm-hmm. She is chewing gum, he is grinning. That's it.
Like, what kind of a name is Lair anyway? Like, I feel like...
Well, along the lines of Gumchewer and Grinner, maybe because his car is his, like, small cave-like lair.
He was also laying down when we initially see him.
Yes.
So maybe they wanted to say, his name isn't necessarily Lair, it's just laying is what he's doing when we initially see him, so he is the lair.
The lair.
And if you say, well, he's laying down, you don't want it to be read like layer, as in like layer cake. So if you kind of spell it out like layer, as in dungeon layer, I guess that would work somehow. But that doesn't excuse the fact that we don't actually hear his name as far as I know. So,
no, I don't think so. So I think all of this is a moot point.
Yeah. It just, I just wish that they had like assigned more names to people.
Yeah.
This is arguing couple all over again. Not to that ridiculous of a degree where 2 actors are sharing the same acting credit. But even so.
Yes.
It's that all over again.
Yes. It occurred to me as you were talking about the actors and other things that they had done. So it's Girl in Car and Gumchewer that have only ever done this, right?
Yeah.
I expect they were just people pulled off the street. Or like a sister or a friend of somebody on the crew. Like, oh, we need somebody to do this. Mm-hmm. And someone's like, yeah, I'll grab my sister. Throw her in.
I didn't see anything about that, but it's completely feasible.
Right.
I don't see why it wouldn't be.
Right. That they weren't professional actors per se. They weren't aspiring to have a career. It's just something they did because they got paid $50.
Yeah. So the building that Gumchewer and Grinner are standing outside, I went on Google Street View, and I'm pretty sure the building that they came out of, based on the other buildings around it, that building back in 2010 was a pharmacy/post office. Still there, still functioning. Pretty much that entire street, none of those buildings have torn down. The biggest difference is that things have started to grow in. So we get another wide shot of the street after we see Grinner and Gumchewer come out, when they start to circle around next to the statue that I mentioned earlier, and they're driving in front of this green building, which is pretty much a garage. It's got a gas pump outside, and it's got a big old sign that says garage. On Google Street View, you can actually still see that exact sign hanging up on the building. It's just really faded because it's, old. So the gang circles back around. The young couple pretty much move to get out of the car to investigate things, and the motorcycles start to line up in front of that store that Gumchewer and Grinner came out of. And we don't actually get to see in this minute the whole lot of them lined up in a wide shot. We get to see that next Monday.
Yep.
We'll be able to see that. So we'll be able to count and get an accurate number of how many gang members there actually are. But as they're moving past this garage, we get another shot of the station master, and he's just kind of standing there with his hands in his pockets, just watching them drive by.
I get the sense that he has the experience of a lifetime.
Yeah. That's pretty much what struck me as well, that he's the kind of guy that's pretty much seen it all and not much shocks him anymore.
Yeah.
And that this motorcycle gang coming into town is just another chapter in his book. It's just same stuff, different day for him. And I think he's another one of my favorite characters in this movie, just because he kind of goes with the flow of things.
Yes, and as we see, that's how to handle the toe cutter gang, is go with the flow. Because if you try and go against the flow, i.e. run away, bad things happen to you.
Yeah.
So just low profile, go with the flow.
Mm-hmm. And then, so the motorcycles, they drive by him, and they start lining up, and we get a very quick shot zoomed in on one of the motorcycle riders as he's kind of starting to back into position. And what we'll see at the beginning of the next minute is all of the motorcycles being completely lined up, and then they start to dismount. And,
And it takes a while.
Yeah, it takes
like
a while.
whole minute.
So we have some material pulled from the behind the scenes documentary that we saw the other day. So we'll spend a lot of time talking about that. We'll try and point out several of the characters in the shot and just try and make sure that we provide quality content, even though there's not a ton of stuff happening on the screen as far as plot and dialogue and things that really make a movie. But it'll be fun to talk about the Acolyte gang, because they are quite the group of interesting characters, to say the least.
Absolutely.
So, since it is the end of the week, Julia, do you have any recommendations of things that people can check out?
I have one that I can highly recommend. Well, not yet, because tomorrow we are going to see a show called Brain Candy. It is Adam Savage of Mythbusters fame, of course, and
Michael Stevens.
Thank you. And Michael Stevens of Vsauce fame have joined forces and created a science education entertainment show. And they are touring the country February, March, and April. And we get to go see them tomorrow night. So I am highly anticipating this. It's going to be fantastic. And so I encourage you to go check out the website. It's braincandylive.com. They are doing a ton of shows. I think they're doing like 7 shows a week, nearly every day, traveling across the country. And it's just started. So there's plenty of time to check out and see if they're coming to your city and to get tickets. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. And if you're interested in staying closer to home, I have a website for you guys to check out. You may have heard me mention them a couple of times. It's www.madmaxmovies.com. This place is a treasure trove of knowledge because it has been curated and built up and fan maintained for a long time. We're talking about profiles for every vehicle, tons of background information about the behind the scenes production work for every single movie. There's message boards. There's just tons of stuff to check out. And so if you want to get a leg up on what we're going to be talking about and get a sneak peek of the things that I'm going to bring up, because I've been pulling tons of material from this site, just check out madmaxmovies.com. Quick note, if you go to madmaxmovie.com, it just leads you to a trailer for Fury Road. But so add that S on there and it'll take you to the site I'm talking about. And while you're on the internet, you might as well visit our website at madmaxminute.com. You can follow us on Twitter if you feel like it, at madmaxminute. And you can go on Facebook and like us there at facebook.com/madmaxminute.
Thank you for joining us for Mad Max Minute number 20. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.
Motorbikes and leather men, take me to the end